I was watching last week's talk and thinking about how precious this interfaith altar is that we have. For those of you who are over there, when you leave, come this way and walk by it, because to understand that the season of light that we are in is so far beyond the Christmas trees. I love Christmas trees. That this season of light that we are in transcends and transforms all the world, Today is the third Sunday of the Christian celebration of Advent, and so we have lit the candle of faith and we have lit the candle of hope. And today we light the candle of joy, the candle of joy. How many of you want to get vulnerable for a minute? How many of you are experiencing an obstacle to joy in your life right now? It could be financial, it could be in a relationship, it could be a diagnosis, somebody else's diagnosis, it could be the state of our country, the state of our world. There's some seeming obstacles to joy right now. And so I have the most exciting thing to share with you, because coming up this week is a Hindu festival honoring Ganesh. Ganesh with his trunk, the remover of obstacles. So today we're also going to be talking about Hinduism, which is represented here on our interfaith altar by Krishna. So this festival that I'm talking about is called Pancha Ganapati. It's a Hindu festival honoring Ganesh. And this version of Ganesh, Ganapati, is the five-faced god of Ganesh. John, I think we have a picture. Have you ever seen these statues of Ganesh that have the five faces? This is a particular version of Ganesh. It shows the Lord with five faces that are embodiment of all what they consider potencies. So there's the flesh body made of matter, the energy body, the mental body, the upper consciousness body, and the body of cosmic bliss. And each of those faces on Ganesh represent a different body. I feel like we could spend the whole year just learning about that, Reverend Shannon. There's so much there. And being raised in a culture and in a tradition where I was not allowed the joy of learning about other religions, I had this assumption that Ganesh, with his trunk sweeping away obstacles, that he was a god, like he was a destroyer. God, turns out, no. He's the God of new beginnings. He's the God of new beginnings. And he's the God of art and culture. New beginnings and art and culture. So, coming up this week, during this 5-day festival, here's what happens. Family members work together to mend past mistakes and to bring the blessings of Ganesh, the blessings of joy and harmony, into 5 realms in their lives. So there's their inner family life, which is considered the household. In many Hindu families, it's an intergenerational household. So there's the family, then the friends, then associates, then culture, and then all of religion. So each day celebrates something else. Okay. Day 1, the family sadhana. Sadhana is the spiritual practice time. So the family sadhana for the first day of Pancha Ganapati is intended to create a vibration of love and harmony among the immediate family members. So the day starts early. Sorry, Reverend Shannon and Michael and your families. But the spiritual practice starts at 6 a.m. I'll just let you know. So it starts early with the entire family. The first thing they do is the whole family works together to create the shrine. for Ganesh, to create the altar, to set the space for the spiritual practice that's going to happen. And then what they call a grand puja, a grand puja, and this is an act of worship, is performed in order to invoke the spirit of Ganesh in the home, the remover of obstacles, the celebrator of art and culture, be present in our home. So they invite the energy of Ganesh into the home. And one of the main ways that they do this is the family sits together, all together, and they spend as long as it takes to offer and receive forgiveness. Forgiveness sets the stage for this festival of light. And the whole family, until every single relationship in the family is clean and clear, the whole family sits together, offering and receiving amends for mistakes, for harmful words, for harmful actions, for things that were perceived as harmful to one another. They take the time to make amends first. And then, once forgiveness is offered to all by one and all, the next thing they do is they tell each other what is good and holy about each other. Right? So first, you clear the space, and then you build each other up. This is not like the Christmas that I have experienced. There is a lot more consumerism and tearing into presents in the holiday tradition that I have practiced for 51 years. So they clear the space, making amends, then they build each other up, telling each other what is good and holy about each other. And then each one states that they will remember the futility of trying to change each other's and will instead remember the practicality of working to change themselves. That's just day one. Can you imagine every single year sitting down with your family of origin and clearing the space? No. Karen, you and me both. Karen and I cannot imagine sitting with Grandpa, turning off the Fox News, and clearing the space. Like, that was not our experience. So I love this festival. On day two, they take the spiritual practice outside of the home to extended neighbors and family, and they ask for and offer forgiveness. They give each other gifts and treats. And by the way, each day of the festival, gifts are exchanged, and they're laid on the altar. They're laid on the shrine, because the acknowledgement that the gift goes first to God. Later, we'll open the gifts. But right now, the gifts are for the divine. The gifts are for the divine. So on day 3, they take it to the workplace, and the people they interact with the grocery store. You know that cranky lady at Fred Meyer? They give her a present. Can you imagine how softening that is for an entire community to have that blessing? And then day 5 is a celebration of culture and the arts and a commitment to increase the honoring of the arts in their lives. So that's day 4. We're not to day 5 yet. That was day 4. Okay, now comes day 5. The culmination of this festival happens on day 5. The final day's puja, or spiritual practice, and the opening of the gifts. So we start at 6 a.m. Again. With family spiritual practice. Reverend Shannon would be up at 6 a.m. for that, I guarantee you. After the puja, each one gives verbal testimony about prayers that were answered that year. because hearing testimony strengthens the faith of the family. And then they make vows of sacrifice, vows which would improve the quality of life of the individual, such as giving up smoking or swearing or correcting other habits. We would think of this as setting mindful intentions for the coming year, right? So they do this puja, this spiritual practice, every 3 hours, starting at 6 a.m. Every 3 hours, the family gathers. They talk about answered prayer, and they set their intentions for the coming year. I can see Michael going, we could do this. And then the 5th and final puja at 6 p.m. is the time when the 5 sadhanas have been completed, peace, love, and harmony among everyone is firmly established. After the puja and before the great feast that follows, Lord Ganesh gives his final darshana. And in this context, so the word darshana has several meanings. In this context, darshana means to see and be seen by the divinity. So before you move on to the opening of the presents and the feasting of the food, you take a moment to look for and be seen by the divine. Then gifts are distributed and joyously opened. Happy children, happy parents, happy God. How beautiful. How beautiful is this festival of light? Panchaganapati. Panchaganapati. There's so much for us to unpack here, but I just want to highlight 2 things for us for today. Just 2 things for today. The first thing I want to dig into a little bit deeper is this idea of the darshana and this spiritual practice to see and be seen by the divine. When you walk into some Hindu temples, there are some narrow ways, and you find a path, and you peek around a corner, and you see this ornate shrine, and you feel the sacredness of the space that has been set. And it is an opportunity for you to glimpse God, to glimpse the divine. I'd like for us to think about this in literal terms, darshana. To look for God in everything and to be willing to be visible to this presence. Because it's not just about looking for God, it's about being seen by God, being seen by love, by being willing to be blessed by life itself. That's what we're talking about here. What if we were willing to stop hiding from God, hiding from good? What if we could step outside of those walls of protection that we build around ourselves and say, bless me, God. Love me, beloved. What if we had the courage and the audacity to say that? So that's the first thing, to see and to be seen by the divine. I was meeting with Reverend Shannon this week, and she is so excited about the new class that she's working on, the Mystical Path. And she's so excited about this new curriculum, so excited about it that I went home and I downloaded the curriculum and I started looking at it, and I can see why you are so excited. I read the entire 6-week curriculum. I couldn't stop. It's going to be fantastic. It's a great class. So I read this. So this is by an American spiritual teacher named Adyashanti. Okay, just take this in for a minute. He says, the liberating truth is not static. It is alive. It cannot be put into concepts and be understood by the mind. The truth lies beyond all forms of conceptual fundamentalism. What you are is the beyond, awake and present here and now already. What you are is the beyond. This core you that is awake and present and beyond concepts and understanding, are you willing to see from that place. Thank you, Cindy. Cindy is willing to see from that place. Are you willing to let love meet you there in that here and now? Are you awake and present and alive to the God of love in such a way that you are willing to be vulnerable to see and be seen and be blessed? So that's number one, to see God in all things and to have the willingness to see, be seen, and be blessed by God, to invite the blessings. Invite the blessings in. So that's the first lesson I want us to take away from Panchaganapati today. The second lesson that I'd like for us to take away is this, y'all. Atonement is an incredibly important aspect of joy. To come together in relationship and come clean with one another, to freely ask for and offer forgiveness where it is safe for us to do that, to make amends. These are important spiritual practices that bring us closer to freedom. There was an ancient Athenian scholar named Thucydides, and he said, the secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. This kind of amends making is courageous. And it is freeing. And even the ancients knew that this kind of freedom gives us access to become a portal for joy. The way to be present to the here and now so that we can be present for joy is to free ourselves of these pulls, these drains on our physical and our mental energy. Our heart energy, our relationship energy, because all of these drains, none of them serve you. You are whole, perfect, and complete. And everything that is taking away from that is an illusion. It doesn't exist. And you have everything that you need to clean it up. So making amends is a powerful act of self-love that creates a space for joy. Creates a space for joy. I'm just going to go ahead and invite you, Panchaganapati, spend time with this beautiful, beautiful Hindu festival. Life-changing, life-changing. Today's talk is titled, Now This Joy. Now This Joy. And when we chose this talk title, I was thinking about how joy looks really different for me now than it did a month ago or a year ago or 10 years ago. Because life looks really different to me now than it did back then. And I was thinking about how joy looks different. And so now I don't get to have the experience that I did when I was 5 years old, waking up and running to that Christmas tree. But now I get this joy. And I started to get curious about what this joy looks like. Well, this week, I'm just going to go ahead and invite my children to close their ears. John, in the video production booth. Faith, watching at home. This week, Michael and I started our Christmas shopping. And we went to the magical land called Fred Meyer. Y'all, this is always our first stop. For those of you who are not local, who do not know what the magical land of Fred Meyer is, imagine one of the best, biggest grocery stores you've ever been to, and then add clothes and electronics and toys and gardening. And moving here from Texas, I had never seen a store like this before. It was magical to me. So I like to start there because you can get a lot in one place at the Fred Meyer. And we have 4 children. We have parents. We have sisters and nephews and nieces. There's a lot going on. So we take all our abundant joy and we go to Fred Meyer. And we walk in the door. We move finally, eventually, past the sock section. They have the best socks. I don't, like, truly, when they have their sock sale in January, you hit that. You hit that sock sale. We finally get ourselves past the socks, and we're noodling our carts over towards the electronics section, and I see a ring, about 25 sheriffs. And my first thought is, should we hide? But they didn't look stressed. And so we kept walking, and I look over my shoulder, and there are about 5 social workers with 25 foster kids. It's called Shop with a Cop. And the social workers bring the kids, and each kid gets their own cop. And they put them on those carts. I mean, they were, at one point I told one sheriff that I was gonna have to write him a speeding ticket. Because he was zooming that kid around, Fred Meyer, on that cart, and I do not know who was having more fun. The kid grinning from ear to ear. And so the whole hour that Michael and I are shopping for our very loved, very wanted, and very well cared for children, the whole hour we were passing these duos, and we were listening to these police officers working their tuchuses off to connect with these kids, and watching these kids get brave and to ask for what they want. And the whole time we were there, we kept intersecting them. Now this joy. Now this joy. This is not what I would have wanted for these kids. There is not a single one of us who would have chosen this life for these kids. Not a single one of us. I would have wished that they could have had parents that could have loved them and nurtured them and had the means to take care of them and to provide holiday joy for them. Nobody wanted these kids to be having the lived experience that they're having. No one. And yet, the joy in that store was overwhelming. Michael and I kept looking at each other with tears. It was palpable. And I don't know who was having more fun, the kids, the cops, or Michael and I just being present to the whole thing. I kept wanting to just take things and secretly put them in the carts, but I didn't want to get in the way of anything. Michael and I got to be present to this whole experience of joy that didn't have anything to do with us. It didn't belong to us in any way. And yet we were able to be fully present for it. This joy now. Not what I thought it would look like, not what I wanted it to look like, not what I would wish in a million years, but joy. And all I had to do was notice what was happening and welcome it into my heart. This one act of service made by these social workers and these marvelous, marvelous police officers, this one act of service created a space for authentic joy right there in Fred Meyer. It reminded me of this quote by the 19th century Bengali poet and philosopher Rabindranath Tagore. And if you don't know him, he's like the Bengali version of Rumi, and he is yummy. It's just delightful. Rabindranath Tagore, and he said, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy." That act of service created a portal for joy in the world. And it made me realize joy, Joy, just one yes. Just one yes. And you too can become a portal for joy in the world. You too can become a portal for freedom. You too can be a portal for the divine. Just one yes. Our beloved mentor, Dr. Noel McGinnis, used to say to me, Shelley, when you say an authentic yes to one thing, you're saying an equally authentic no to an infinite number of other things. So know the power of your yes. And I was thinking about this idea of just one powerful yes. Just one powerful yes, to be willing and courageous, to serve another, to create that portal in the world, to stop worrying about what I wanted it to look like and to start being fully present to what it is and to allow the portal to open and open and open. Because we were made for joy. Our brains are wired for joy. Our bodies are wired for joy. The sound of joy is a bell that is holy in all that we are. Just one yes. And we can be a portal for joy. Are you with me? Yeah. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin taught us that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. Joy is the infallible sign of the presence of the divine. So when we say a yes to courageously making amends so that we can live in freedom, that opens that portal of joy. When we say yes to what is calling us to have more, be more, give more love, that opens that portal of joy. So the invitation this week is to create a space for joy in your life as it is now, exactly as it is now. Not what you wished it would look like, but as it is, to accept the gift of this life exactly as it is. And to be willing to do two things. Whatever you need to do to be free. And whatever you can do to open that space for just one sacred yes. To be the joy. Are you with me?